What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm going to teach you how to use Mew in less than 10 minutes. As always, if you guys are excited for the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment which Pokemon you want to see next. Let's do it. As always, we'll be talking about Mew's stats, move pool, abilities, potential items, potential partners, some really bad partners, some team examples, and of course its place in the meta for both Smogon and Draft League. Now, starting with its stats, Mew has a perfectly well-rounded distribution of stats. 100 base stats all around is really incredible. It allows Mew to do so many different things on a team, whether it's an offensive sweeper, an offensive breaker, a defensive stopper, or something like a stall breaker. These sets can really cause a lot of problems for your opponent if they didn't prepare for the right ones. This gives it a built-in advantage over so many other Pokemon because it can do anything, and other Pokemon just can't do that. So drafting a Mew, or having a Mew on your team, allows for an element of surprise for an opponent that they just have to deal with, and it makes it very difficult for people to prepare and to play around it. Moving on to its typing, Mew's typing of pure Psychic is just okay, and the reason I say that is because even though it only has 3 weaknesses in Bug, Dark, and Ghost, it only has 2 resistances to Psychic and to Fighting, which again are good but not the best. I will say though that its typing is good and bad, and here's what I mean by that. It's good because it only has those 3 weaknesses, but it's bad because those 3 weaknesses are pretty unique, and they hit things pretty hard because they're also very common. You're looking at moves like Knockoff, or U-Turn, or something like Foul Play. Knockoff and U-Turn are arguably 2 of the best moves in Pokemon, so it's kind of a shame that it's hit super effectively by both of these moves. That does give it some advantages though, when you're running something like a weakness policy, because Mew has such a great typing and such a great stat distribution, it can take a non-stab U-Turn or a non-stab Knockoff and be able to set up a weakness policy and go for a game that way. That's definitely a possibility. But on the bright side, the lack of weaknesses that Mew has, because again, 3 is not very many weaknesses, it allows Mew to set up a lot more efficiently compared to a lot of other Pokemon. You can set up on fire types, on water types, on dragon types even, and really put in a lot of work because they may not be prepared for a setup Mew. Because of its typing, its stat distribution, and its insane move pool, Mew has an advantage, and it means that a lot of Pokemon that you would normally think could check a Mew can't really do that. It's hard to have a Pokemon that can check every single Mew set. It really is. Speaking about its coverage, Mew has a lot of it. We're going to be breaking it down in terms of 3 categories, starting with its status moves, then moving on to its physical moves, and then finally its special moves. And within the status moves, we've discovered a couple of different categories within that. So we're going to go ahead and start with the status moves right now. So the first category I want to look at is the setup moves. These are moves like Cosmic Power, Dragon Dance, Calm Mind, Nasty Plot, Swords Dance, Agility, or Rock Polish. All these moves are really good on Mew, and depending on what your opponent's preparing for, they can all catch them off guard in different ways. Now, I will say that even though those are really good moves, they're not the best moves that Mew has access to, not the best status moves. You're looking at moves, something like a Roost, or a Soft Boil, or a Heal Bell. These fall under the recovery set of moves for Mew. There's also the status affliction moves, something like Toxic or Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave, all of which have their unique applications for a Pokemon like Mew. And then finally, we're looking at the other options. These are moves like Defog, Taunt, Rocks, something like Toxic Spike, something like Light Screen Reflect. All these moves have a lot of utility for a Pokemon like Mew, which can do basically everything depending on what your team needs in a certain situation. Whether it's in Smogon or Draft League, Mew has the ability to just mix things up on the status side. Now looking at the physical side. Now this physical side has a lot of different moves, and I'm not going to cover all of them because it gets a move of basically every single type, but some of the common ones you're going to see are moves like Triple Axle, Earthquake, something like Knockoff, U-Turn, something like Close Combat, Psychic Fangs, something that's like Body Press. These moves hit so hard on the physical side and are very common on a lot of different Mew sets. Then there's the special side. Special side is almost as good, if not better. You have moves like Psychic, Flamethrower, you have Ice Beam, and Thunderbolt. Those are super common moves to see on Mew because Bolt Beam coverage hits so many things for really good damage. Bolt Beam being a ice move and a electric move combined together to hit basically everything that you want. There's Store Power, like I was saying before. There's Volt Switch for momentum. There's Meteor Beam, which is a pretty new Mew set. There's Store Power, like I said earlier, and then Vacuum Wave. Vacuum Wave is really nice to have priority on Mew to be able to break through those dark types that may be faster than Mew, especially if you get a Nasty Plot off. Now, there's so many different moves that I didn't cover here, but just be creative with Mew. It can do so many different things, and if you're not creative with it, you're going to struggle. Honestly, if you can't use the creativity behind Mew, it's going to be difficult for you to be a successful Mew user. Moving on to its ability. Now, its ability in Synchronize is fine. It's not good. I won't say it's bad. It's just okay. What it does is it mimics the status affliction that Mew got. So if you get Toxic, then your opponent will get Toxic. That's really helpful if your Mew is getting Toxic by a Pokemon that's not a Poison type or not a Steel type, or a Pokemon that doesn't have access to a move like Magic Guard, or an ability like Magic Guard rather. It's really nice in that situation. It also helps against Pokemon that might want to burn you with Will-O-Wisp, assuming it's not a Pokemon that is a Fire type or an Electric type, same thing with Thunder Wave. These statuses are really good against Mew, but not every Mew set is weak to the same status options. Some are weaker to Burns, some are weaker to Toxic, some are weaker to Thunder Wave. So again, be careful with which Mew set you're going to be Toxicking, Paralyzing, or Burning. Moving on to some items and potential sets. Obviously the big one that you're going to see all the time over every single Mew is going to be the leftovers. Mew is insanely bulky like we covered before, so having the extra 11 to 15 HP at level 50 that you're going to be getting back every turn from leftovers is absolutely key. Such a good Pokemon that can take many different hits, and after one round of leftovers recovery, it can make the difference between getting 2 KO'd or not, which is really important on a Pokemon as bulky as Mew. After that, you have items like Resist Berry, something like a Cassid Berry for Ghost types, or Colbur Berry for Dark types, or Tanga Berry for the Bug types is really nice for Mew, allowing it to get an extra turn to set up, or an extra turn to get a Will-O-Wisp or Thunder Wave or Toxic off against these really powerful Pokemon that you have to deal with. This is really important when dealing with Pokemon like Mew because you want to be able to weaken things without necessarily having to sweep if it's not a sweeper set. Then you have an item like the Expert Belt, which is very nice in certain situations because Mew has all the coverage in the world. It can hit everything for super active damage, basically anytime it wants, which is really, really nice. Only downside is, it's not the best item to have. It's just good to have in certain situations for Draft League, let's say, because you know what team your opponent will bring. Then there's Weakness Policy. Now, Weakness Policy is nice, but it's not the best item to have in certain situations. Depends on what Mew set you're running. But if you get an Agility up after taking a U-turn or a knockoff, it can be devastating for your opponent to deal with. Let's look at a couple of really good Mew sets that I personally like a lot. Starting off with Stallbreaker, this is arguably the best Mew set. Looking at moves like Knockoff, Spikes, Roost, and Taunt, all of which are really powerful in their own right and can prevent teams from doing what they want to do. It also has a really good option in a setup set with Cosmic Power. I mentioned it before, but Cosmic Power with Body Press and Store Power are really good because you're boosting not only the power of Store Power, but the power of Body Press because you're getting the defense raises as well, all while increasing your longevity. And then you have Roost for the general recovery, which is really good. This set can put in work if your opponent is expecting you to maybe get burnt instead of toxic. It's a really good set to have on Mew. Let's talk about some partners now. I really like Mew because it has the ability to be so flexible. It can do so many different things, but that means there's not one specific partner that can be really good. Something like Dragapult has a really good partner with something like a Mandibuzz. Mew doesn't have that. Some really common options in the Draft League scene are going to be Pokemon like Rotom Wash, like Sylveon, like Nidoqueen, like Weavile. Rotom Wash and Sylveon because they're good pivots that can be good general defensive checks to quite a lot of different things. Nidoqueen gets access to hazards that Mew doesn't have to run, and it's a fighting resist as well. And then finally there's Weavile, which can break through its own checks, but also can really punish opposing Dark types because it has access to Low Kick, and it really punishes opposing Psychic types, which would resist Mew's Stab. In terms of Smogon, some good options are going to be things like Conkeldurr, like Ferrothorn, and like Galarian Zapdos. Conkeldurr because it hits so hard and can break through a lot of different Pokemon, and then Ferrothorn because it can set up spikes and rocks so Mew doesn't have to. And then finally, Galarian Zapdos, so that if you're running a spiking or a hazard setting Mew, the Galarian Zapdos can come in on the Defog and get the Defiant boost and really start punishing teams. In terms of what I recommend, for Draft League is what I mostly play, but I would recommend something like a Conkeldurr. Very good, hits very hard, and can be punishing to a lot of different teams. There's something like a Scizor, which can get good momentum into quite a few different Pokemon and has only one weakness. And then finally, Terrakion is also kind of similar to the the Conkeldurr rather, because it can break through quite a lot and really punishes the Dark types that Mew is going to be bringing in. And then finally, Urshifu Rapid Strike is kind of similar, a good pivot that forces a lot of different preps so that they can kind of take away from attention from Mew, which is really important. Now for Pokemon that I would not partner with Mew, this is a tough list to do because it's not one specific Pokemon, but it's more so tailored around Draft League because Draft League has a budget system in place, whether it's tiers or points. So I wouldn't recommend something like a high tier Ghost type because you want to spend your money elsewhere in different areas for a fighting type, for a fire type, for whatever, something more important than a Ghost type. Same thing goes for a high tier Psychic type Pokemon. You don't need to have doubling up Psychics with Mew, but you want to have Mew get some freedom. So I don't think a Pokemon like Necrozma or Jirachi are recommended because they are really high and expensive Pokemon. And I think Pokemon like the Gardevoir or the Orbeetle can do similar things that are really unique in their own right that Mew may not be able to do, and that helps out a lot when dealing with a Mew team. As for some team examples, we're going to look at my team for the APA. We're looking at Pokemon like Mew, Terrakion, Scizor, all of which were mentioned before. I have some really good pivoting options, some really good breakers for the Dark types, and Pokemon that can give me hazards whenever I need them. In the Dragalge, in the Shelmet, in the Terrakion, and the Mamoswine. And then finally we have Aquarius' team for the UBL. She has a Mew, a Thundurus Incarnate, and then a Nidoqueen, all of which are really nice situationally to take on the fighting type Pokemon that might want to come in against her Bisharp. But in general, this team has a lot of good pivots that can be used really well with Mew. Well, that's it. It's the end of the video. In less than 10 minutes, you now know how to use Mew. If you guys liked the video, then make sure to leave a like and of course comment as well. It's the best way to help the channel grow, and it would also let me know which Pokemon that you want to see next. If you want to vote on the next Pokemon that you're going to be seeing, then you can follow me on Twitter. It's where I post the poll to see which Pokemon I'll be covering next. And of course, guys, you made it to the very end of the video, so you should probably subscribe. I mean, you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. Seems like a pretty good pairing, so, you know, subscribe. It'd be good. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next time.